Your life right now is nothing but a clear reflection of your standards. Not luck, not chance, not fate, not circumstances, just the level of standards you have chosen to accept. You may argue, you may blame situations, you may complain about what life has done to you, but the truth will always remain unshaken. You are living exactly what your standards have permitted. If your standards allow fear, then fear will dominate your days. If your standards excuse laziness, then laziness will become your identity. If your standards settle for mediocrity, then mediocrity will shape your destiny. Life does not rise to meet your dreams or your wishes. Life only rises or sinks to meet your standards. One man says, "At least I have a job, at least I can survive." And survival becomes his destiny because survival is the maximum of his standard. He lives day after day just enough to get by, and that becomes the story of his life. Another man says, "I demand abundance, I demand excellence, I demand freedom, I demand to live on my own terms and I cannot accept less." And that becomes his reality because life has no choice but to yield before a man who refuses to accept less. That is the power of standards. Your destiny is not written by your dreams, but by what you refuse to tolerate any longer. The day you decide that fear is no longer acceptable, fear will begin to fade. The day you decide that mediocrity is no longer tolerable, your actions will automatically shift toward excellence. The day you declare that poverty, weakness, and excuses will no longer be part of your identity, you begin to rise to a completely new level of existence. When you raise your standard, the world bends. When you raise your standard, opportunities suddenly appear that were always hidden in plain sight. When you raise your standard, your mind sharpens, your body strengthens, and your spirit ignites with a fire that cannot be put out. History is filled with ordinary men and women who remained invisible until they decided to say, "This is not enough. I will not live like this anymore. I will rise." That decision to raise their standards turned slaves into leaders, turned poverty into prosperity, turned weakness into strength, turned ordinary lives into extraordinary legacies. If you truly want to change your life, stop asking for change like a beggar and start demanding more of yourself like a king. The man who tolerates excuses will always live surrounded by excuses. The man who tolerates comfort will die in the same comfort zone, never knowing what he could have become. But the man who tolerates nothing less than greatness, he will find greatness, or he will die in the pursuit of it. Look carefully at your life right now. Your friends, your habits, your income, your health, your relationships, your discipline. Every single detail is a reflection of the standards you have silently accepted. If you want more, then raise it. Raise your standard of discipline, raise your standard of effort, raise your standard of focus, raise your standard of faith. Stop playing the victim because victims are slaves of low standards. Stop tolerating weakness because weakness spreads like a disease once allowed. Stop excusing mediocrity because mediocrity is the silent killer of destiny. You say you want freedom, then demand it with your actions. You say you want respect, then earn it through the power of your consistency. You say you want success, then embody it in every decision you make. Life listens only to the man who refuses to accept less. Life surrenders only to the man who commands more. Your family's future depends on the standard you live by. Your children's dreams depend on the standard you pass on to them. Generations not yet born depend on whether you choose to rise or to remain where you are. Because when you rise, everything connected to you rises with you. When you demand more, everything around you begins to expand. There are only two kinds of people in this world: the ones who adapt themselves to the standards of the world, and the ones who force the world to adapt to the standards they have set for themselves. Which one will you be? Will you be the man who says, "It's enough, at least I have something"? Or will you be the man who declares, "It will never be enough until I have given my absolute best, until I have fulfilled the potential that was planted inside me"? Raise the standard of your work ethic. Raise the standard of your courage. Raise the standard of your belief. Raise the standard of your perseverance, and watch how doors open, watch how mountains move, watch how the impossible bows before you. You were not born to crawl in mediocrity. You were designed to soar in greatness. But the wings of greatness only spread when your standard rises. So ask yourself right now, what am I tolerating that I must destroy? What am I settling for that I must demand more of? What patterns have I allowed in my life that no longer deserve to exist? Your future is waiting for you on the other side of those answers. It is waiting for you to decide. No more excuses, no more fear, no more average. Today I rise. Today I raise my standard. Today I command life to give me what I know I deserve. Not because the world owes it to me, but because I will labor until it bows, because I will sacrifice until it yields, because I will accept nothing less. Standards create kings. Standards create legends. Standards create destiny. And when the world remembers your name, it will not be because of what you wished for or what you dreamed of, but because of what you demanded, what you labored for, what you refused to live without. Rise the standard, and the world will rise with you. This is the unshakable law of destiny, that life will never give you more than your standard demands. The question is, what is the standard you are willing to live by from this day forward? Your life is a canvas, and the brush you paint with is your standard. Every stroke, every color, every shade reflects the level of demand you place on yourself. Some people use dull colors because they believe they cannot afford brightness. Their standard whispers to them that average is all they deserve. Others, however, dare to splash bold colors across the canvas of life. They demand brilliance, they demand clarity, they demand depth, and as a result, their masterpiece stands out, admired and remembered. When you wake up each morning, ask yourself, what is the standard I will live by today? Will I accept fear to control my choices, or will I demand courage to lead my steps? Will I allow laziness to drag me down, or will I demand discipline to push me forward? Your daily decisions are nothing but an echo of your standards. If you accept sloppy effort, your results will mirror that sloppiness. If you demand precision and excellence, your results will begin to shine. Life is fair in this sense. It never cheats anyone. It gives back only what you demanded from it through your standards. Think of the great leaders, inventors, and changemakers. They were not born extraordinary. Most of them were born in ordinary homes, in ordinary places, facing ordinary struggles. But at some point, they looked at the conditions around them and said, "This is not enough. I refuse to settle here. I will raise my standard." That single decision separated them from the crowd. That single decision opened doors that generations before them never thought possible. They demanded more education, more knowledge, more courage, more persistence, more impact. And because they demanded it, life delivered it. But here is the catch. Life does not deliver instantly. Raising your standards means committing yourself to a fight, to a struggle, to a journey that may last years. When a man says, "I demand freedom," life does not place freedom in his lap. It tests him, it challenges him. It pushes him to see if his demand is real or just a wish. And only when he proves that his standard is unshakable does life finally surrender. This is why so many people fail. They say they want more, but they continue living with the same low standards. They wish for greatness, but their habits belong to mediocrity. They speak about freedom, but they live as slaves to their excuses. Your actions will always reveal the truth of your standards. If you want abundance, you cannot live like a man of scarcity. If you want excellence, you cannot behave like a man of mediocrity. If you want respect, you cannot act with dishonor. If you want strength, you cannot tolerate weakness in your daily choices. Raise the standard in the smallest things, the way you wake up, the way you speak, the way you work, the way you treat people, the way you treat yourself. Because excellence is never one big act. It is thousands of small standards enforced daily. Your children are watching. Your family is watching. The people around you are silently taking note of the standards you live by. If you settle for average, they will think average is normal. If you demand greatness, you give them permission to aim higher. Generations are shaped not by advice but by standards. A father who demands integrity from himself teaches his children more than 1,000 lectures on honesty. A mother who demands discipline from herself raises children who understand the value of persistence without ever reading a motivational book. Standards are contagious. They spread from one life to another, from one generation to the next. So ask yourself, what legacy will my standards create? Will my name be forgotten because I demanded nothing more than survival? Or will my name be remembered because I demanded greatness when it was hard, when it was uncomfortable, when everyone else said it was impossible. History remembers not the wishers, not the dreamers, not the talkers. It remembers the demanders.